Hey everyone, I'm Megan Densmore. I am an actress, producer, wellness guide, freedom coach. I don't know. What do you want to call me today? um, Today's topic is one that I think a lot of people can identify with. It's a pretty universal challenge. Basically, anybody who has ever wanted or tried to get in-depth education on a topic, anybody who has ever tried to say they are an expert in something, anyone who has ever tried to start something bigger than themselves, anybody who has ever tried to help anybody else with anything else is probably going to understand this concept. So, love to hear what people think as we go. I'm going to jump right in. Have you ever felt like a fraud or a phony? Have you? Comment below, give me a like, share this video. I bet you have if you're not some sort of sociopath. So here's what we have to say about this. Okay. Am I, Megan Densmore, a fraud? Thanks, Tiff. I'm working out. Am I a fraud? Let's unpack this and explore this more. All I can think of and all my perspective can be is my own, right? I don't know your perspective, so I can only share from mine. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be pretty transparent. So here we go. Yes, I feel like a fraud constantly. Constantly, just all the time. I feel like a fraud today because today I am doing a Facebook Live on Freedom Friday and talking about finding your freedom when I currently have a full-time job. I am an entrepreneur with a full-time job. I have very little freedom in my life right now, and there are reasons why that is happening. I could talk about reasons, whatever. I'm also a person who understands that when the shit hits the fan, and it does sometimes, you do what you gotta do. You step up. You make it happen. If you need to make some money, you go make some money. You don't whine about it, you figure it out. Okay? So that's where I'm at. So, am I a fraud if I'm a freedom coach who right now today has very little freedom? Maybe, but I'm going to argue no, and I'm going to tell you why. When we talk about entrepreneurship and risk go hand in hand. They're like this, right? So, sometimes, well, all the time we hear the success stories. I leapt. I took a risk. There was no net. I jumped and the universe supported me and it was amazing and I made thousands upon thousands of dollars and I lived happily ever after and walked into the sunset. That's happened to me. I've had those days. I'm going to have more of them. It's fantastic when that happens. And then there are also the times where you leap. There's no net. You take a risk. And it doesn't quite pay off how you want it to. And you have some debt. And you have to pay your rent. And you have to eat. So you do what you have to do to get through those periods. Now, you could be mad about the risk you took. I could spend time doing that today, but I regret none of my risks, and I'm a responsible adult. So I do what I gotta do in order to figure that out. And I know I'm going to continue to be a person who takes risks and loves doing that and loves jumping net or no net and making things happen. So, okay, back to this point. All right, first of all, we've identified that, okay, maybe I'm a fraud. I don't think I'm really actually a fraud. It's fine. I want to give another example because what I want to talk about right now is related to education and expertise, being an expert in general. This is a big one for me, especially since I'm often helping people with really concrete health and physical challenges. That's a part of my expertise on the planet. And what I want to go back to is when I first became a Pilates instructor, this was over a decade ago. I was a person who personally had chronic pain. I had had a lot of issues, mostly with my spine. I had a lot of challenges. And I'm going to get back to that question, Tiff. Don't let me forget. Please comment that again if I don't get there. I was someone who had a lot of experience with my own personal physical pain. And I also was a person who asked a lot of questions and was willing to be creative and experiment with people. So I was I want to say I was 3 or 4 months into my Pilates certification. And at that time, I got cleared to take on some low-paying clients. Basically, I was able to work as an intern, let's say. And I was paid only $20 an hour, and these clients knew that they were working with someone who's a trainee. Again, all this is fine, insurance and legal-wise, right? I got a client. My first client who agreed to work with an intern, me, had 4 herniated discs in her lower back. 4. Not 1, 4. She'd been cleared by a physical therapist to do exercise. She was brave putting herself in my hands, because to be fair, at that point, I wasn't a fraud, but I didn't really know what I was doing yet. I just really didn't. Now, how I know I am not a fraud was in that moment, I knew I had the background that I had. I knew I had excellent education. I also knew I had so many resources at my disposal. And I said to this human being, I said, okay, I have the knowledge that I have at this point. I do believe I can help you because I know I'm smart, and I know I'm going to listen to you, and I know I'm going to make good choices. And I know I am going to ask you questions along the way. Let this be collaborative, and I'm going to work with you to figure out how we're going to get from here to there. Okay? Now that is exactly what happened. I was very effective with her. I learned things that then moving forward were extremely powerful for myself and a lot of other clients who I eventually worked with who had a lot of these kinds of issues. The reason that I'm not a fraud, even though that's something that I still have come up every day, is my willingness to understand that I don't have all the answers. And that I'm going to sometimes have to go back, learn new things, come back, admit that I don't always know, understand that I am an expert because I have knowledge and I have experience. But even being an expert in that way does not mean that it stops there. I start to be a fraud if I'm unwilling to continue to listen and grow and work with other people around these things that actually matter. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go back because Tiffany had a question. She said, do you feel like above quoted imposter syndrome exists more because of social media? Okay, and I want to go back because Josh also said that imposter syndrome is real and it sucks. I think social media does absolutely contribute to this because, well, I'll give you an example. If you go on Instagram, okay, I feel really excellent about how I look right now. I'm in really good shape. I feel really great about it. I tend to have a lot more muscle tone. I'm a lot leaner from the waist up than I am from the waist down. I can take photographs on a perfect angle where it looks like I'm lean my entire body. And I could post that to Instagram if I wanted to. Someone could then look at that and say, Megan has a perfect body. They could do that, right? Or I could even retouch it. I could do a professional photo shoot and pose just the perfect way with just the perfect outfit. But if I turn another angle, I've got cellulite. I have curves. I'm not like that ripped from the waist down. It's from the waist up. So we can tell the story through a photograph and through social media that I have a perfectly chiseled body from head to toe. We could do that. But then that's going to give someone else the idea that's not actually true. And this does happen on social media all the time. We like to share what we feel comfortable sharing, or we like to share what has us look like an expert because we're kind of all afraid of being frauds at the same time. So if it's well and good for me to like get on here and be like, yeah, find your freedom, Freedom Friday, I got it all figured out. I shared with you guys that I have a full-time job right now. So if I don't share that and I get on here like I'm perfect, possibly that's going to send you the wrong message about what my life is actually like right now. And possibly that might make you feel, again, impacted in this way from this imposter syndrome. I know there are a lot of people who follow these videos who I work with in some of my entrepreneurial pursuits. And again, like, if they see me as a perfect success story, I feel like I'm not doing my job in connecting. I've talked about this a lot before. We want to connect, share, be vulnerable, tell people the whole story. I have a commitment on my social media to telling people the whole story about what my life is like. And I would encourage other people to do the same. If we all start doing that, I think we're going to stop feeling as much of that connection. And also, I'm responsible for my interpretation of what I see on social media. And I'm responsible for if I compare myself to some of these perfect fitness Instagram photographs that I see, or these perfect fitness professionals that I see on Instagram who seem to have it all figured out, if they aren't willing to share the whole story. And it's not on me to change what they're willing to share. I'm going to encourage everybody to share transparently if that's something they feel comfortable with, so that we can start to shift what we see on social media into being something that's more a positive thing for everyone else, instead of people feeling like they need to take a break all the time from what they're seeing because they're feeling like their own self-confidence is negatively impacted by what they're seeing. Okay? But I get that we all are responsible for what we're responsible for. So I hope that answers that question. Really what this is about is I want each of you, everybody who's watching this, please feel free to share this. Go back to your own self and say, is there something that I feel like a fraud that I'm doing? And in that, am I passionate about said thing? Do I have education about said thing? Am I willing to get more education about said thing? Am I willing to collaborate with other people in that field? And do I create value around whatever this thing is that I feel like a fraud? If you're answering all of those 5 things with a yes, you're not a fraud. You actually are an expert to some degree. And if you hold yourself back from sharing the knowledge that you have, you potentially are missing an opportunity to make a really huge impact in someone else's life. And we don't want to miss those opportunities. So if I felt today, oh, I'm a fraud, talking about Freedom Friday while I got a job and I'm hustling and I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. If I felt that way today and I didn't come on here and do this video, possibly there's someone who I could have been making an impact for them, but I stopped myself from sharing because I felt like a fraud. That's the point that I want to make. We are all human. It's messy. We're at the place that we are at in getting to where we want to be, and we all are able to make the impact that we can make right now today. So I hope this is helpful. I appreciate everybody watching. There's going to be some cool stuff happening. I'm going to start to move these videos over to YouTube, and I'm starting to create a channel there. So as always, please share these videos. We're also going to start uploading them as vlogs on my website. They'll also always live on Vimeo, but I'm going to start to see if I can create a bit of sharing, because I'm getting good positive feedback from people watching these videos. People are saying that they're helpful. You can always request topics as well. You can comment below to let me know if there are helpful topics that you want to hear. You can message me as well. My Facebook profile is public, so I'll get any comments that you give or share. You can share this video as widely as you want to, and you can start to push people over to YouTube if you want to as well. I'm here to help. Let's change social media into being a bit more transparent so we can all be humans who love one another and support what each other are doing. Jazz hands, I guess, today. All right. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Megan Densmore. I'm an actress, producer, freedom coach, wellness guide. You can do it. You're not a fraud.